Is it normal not to desire physical/sexual intimacy until you're in love with someone and know them really well? And not just in love like love at first sight or the norm of kissing someone within 3 weeks of dating. Is it normal to not even have the desire to kiss someone you like until you know them for a long time, maybe even a year at least, and trust them fully? I don't feel any desire to do anything sexual with someone even if I like them unless I know them very very well and am certain they love me and wouldn't leave. Is this normal? I've read the average time for a couple to make a relationship physical in terms of kissing can be 1 to 3 weeks and in terms of sex can be 1 month, but I wouldn't want to do it until at least a year. But does that mean no one would want to be with me long enough to wait, or am I just pressuring myself for no reason? Thanks in advance for any advice. As others have said, what's normal isn't set in stone. It varies among age groups, situations, cultures, etc. In the West, it's normal to move out after 18. But in the East, it's normal to stay at home with your parents until marriage or even beyond if you're a guy. Just because you don't follow what most others around you are doing doesn't mean you're abnormal, because normal is more like just the norm and just defined by your surroundings. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong. Please try not to compare yourself with others around you. Take it at your own pace. Would you rather do things in a hurry and early and not feel left behind with your peers and regret it? Or would you do it a little later but have a comfortable and enjoyable experience with someone you trust? I find it ridiculous that virginity shaming is a thing. People are embarrassed/made to feel embarrassed by being virgins at 20 when it's perfectly okay. I'm similar to you. I feel like I'm the same way with the certain they love me and won't leave me. I don't prefer getting into one-night or short-term relationships just for time pass or for the experience. I just can't enjoy it. I just feel used afterwards. I know they're not for me. So I'd rather invest in long-term relationships that save my time and feelings. Don't worry about it. You don't even have to label yourself if you don't want to. There are definitely people like you. And they're not rare. Don't pressurize yourself. Take it at your own pace. I was going to say something similar, but you put it in words much better than I could. You're very kind to take your time explaining this so well. I'd like to agree and emphasize that. Yes. For some people a label can be comforting because it includes you in a group of like-minded people. Similarly, some people don't like labels because it might feel too much like a box you're putting yourself in. I'm with that second group. Should it be necessary, I would tell people I'm bisexual or even pansexual, as well as demisexual. But if it's up to me, I'd just say I have no real preference except for a good bond with my partner, and apart from that, let everybody just live their own life. Don't ever stress too much about not adhering to standards. The only thing that matters is that you're not harming anyone, including yourself. All that aside, just live your life to the best of your abilities. Enjoy it. Live it for yourself. And know that the only thing you owe yourself or anyone else is to try and be happy. And finally, it's a new year. And I wish you all the best. Some of us take longer than others to get to that level of intimacy. There's even a word for it, demisexual, one who only experiences sexual attraction in the context of a close emotional bond. I don't like using labels, because we're all different. But I find a lot of my relationships are like this. I've never enjoyed a one-night stand. And I usually take my time getting to know someone well before escalating to kissing or any level of physical intimacy. But if you are so uncertain about relationships that you think this might take a year or more, and you actually want to feel like you're in love and they'll never leave, before even kissing, then you may have some issues with intimacy and relationships to work through. I feel like labels are just there so it's easier to find other you relate to and to possibly learn more about yourself. I don't like labeling myself either. But I find it easier to explain myself with them at times. I think demisexuality on a scale is extremely common though. People just don't label it. That's really the only function of labels. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's like saying you like hockey. Now, most people would assume that means you like ice hockey or field hockey. But you could also be talking about roller hockey, air hockey, foot hockey, beach hockey, shinny, table hockey, or any number of variations on the concept. The specific label probably isn't too important in your day-to-day life unless you're obsessed by it. But it becomes a useful tool when trying to find a person to play with. Same applies to sexuality. Being straight, gay, bi, demi, ace, etc. often doesn't have much relevance to your day-to-day life unless you want it to. But it can be very useful when looking for a partner with the same interest. I can be sexually attracted to someone and imagine/halfway want to do sexual things with them. But I don't actually want to kiss until we've already developed at least an emotional bond/started dating. And don't want to do anything remotely sexual until we've been together a little while and are in love. No FWB for me. This is definitely how I feel. I can't still meet someone and think they're attractive or that I'd like to be with them. But in reality I want to get to know them and form an emotional foundation first. For some it's just a physical thing they enjoy doing with others. For others it is a very intimate experience they can only share with someone they deeply trust. Either is normal. I wouldn't worry about it. There are people who feel this way. Yes. Sometimes they identify as demisexual. But OFC someone doesn't have to identify as anything if they don't want. But OFC someone doesn't have to identify as anything if they don't want. Oddly really comforting to hear. That had never crossed my mind before tbh. There's some famous study about asking people if they're gay or bisexual they'll say no, but if you ask them how willing they are to have sex with another man/woman same sex, some of the same people will say very. So most medical services stopped asking people their sexual orientation and started asking them what gender their partners are. Yes. People give that a label nowadays, and if something like that helps you, then that's great. My personal take on it is that this is actually a rather common way to feel, and so I'm not quite sure if said label is necessary. But yes. It's completely normal. I'm the same. There are entire cultures that function only this way. I honestly find it weird how in the West sex is normalized to the point where it's like having breakfast. Sex has a higher meaning than just physical urges. It's the display of trust between two people. Showing yourself naked as the day you were born to someone else is the epitome of trust, as if you have nothing to hide. I studied a bit of psychology, and this is very normal to specific types of people. I think you might even be of the same personality as me. You put higher value in emotional connection than physical interaction. Just because you don't act like those around you doesn't mean it's wrong. Be yourself. I definitely agree with you there. I guess another reason I might feel this way is also because the way I was raised conflicts with what the norm is around me so much that I feel alienated at times and struggle to meet that norm. I definitely do value emotional connection more, I would say. Not that physical interaction isn't important, but for me that comes once the emotional connection is there. So almost like a secondary step to the process. Feeling like that is totally normal. At the end of the day we are all scared of vulnerability in some way. But that doesn't mean you need to feel like you're different or wrong for feeling that way. Being that vulnerable with others is not easy. And oftentimes that emotional connection is a guide into being intimate with others. as much as there is a normal least expectation to feel otherwise. It is a core part of us as human beings. To feel out a relationship before deciding if it is safe to be vulnerable like that in that space. Chances are you will meet others who feel the same way. And the right person for you will understand that and respect it. Don't overthink it too much. There's nothing wrong with the way you feel.